As a church leader, your time and resources are limited. It's difficult to find discipleship and Bible study materials that are affordable, easily accessible, and high quality. But there is a way to equip the people in your church every day of the week without losing sleep. Welcome to Right Now Media, the world's largest library of video-driven Bible study resources, used by more than 20,000 churches, schools, and organizations. With a Right Now Media subscription, everyone in your church can access thousands of biblical resources for kids, couples, small groups, and more. Give your members access to great content, anytime, anywhere, on any device.
And God specifically says, the way you think, that's not the same way I think.
Equip and inspire everyone in your church beyond Sunday.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. It's so good to be with you. Yeah, I'm really excited. God bless each and every one of you. I am happy. I'm ecstatic to just be here. I am gradually getting revamped. My energy levels are coming back strong. My spiritual energy levels, my physical energy levels. Because I realized I was very, very exhausted spiritually, emotionally, and also physically. So it's so good to be here. Thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you so much for always being here with me. Even whilst I was away, so many of you took the time to pray for me, to pray for my family. I appreciate that, and I commend you. Some of you took the time to support this platform, what I do financially, because I have legal costs to meet, and there are other projects that I do around, Solomon's Temple. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your financial support. Thank you for your prayer support. Thank you for your moral support. There's so many different ways that you chose to support what I do and support what God is doing. That is the most important part of it. It is a privilege for me to go to prison. I say that again. It is a privilege and an honor for me to go to prison. I didn't go to prison because I stole from somebody. I didn't go to prison because I went into somebody's house and took stuff. I didn't go to prison because I committed fraud. I didn't go into prison for any of these things. I went into prison because I was up defending the gospel. I was up defending people that have been taken advantage of by pastors. So, it was an experience that it's like really, you don't get that such experience until you go through it. I've done quite a bit of prison ministries in the past, but going into prison myself and being there for the length of time that I was in there, because of Alf Lukau, it was such a different experience. Alf Lukau, I continue to say, he is not the man of God. He doesn't represent who God is. He is totally in error. His theology, his doctrines are all in error. He is someone that is leading people away from God instead of leading them to God. And that is who Alf Lukau is. And I'm not going to stop talking about that. No fear, no intimidation, no threat, no prison. Neither death can separate me from the love of God or from sharing the gospel. Is the price that we have to pay. But I cannot stand boldly, and I cannot continue to do that without your support. I thank you so much. Each and every one of you that have been there. Some of you that, didn't even believe in what I do before now, what God is doing through me and through other people. Now you are out. I cannot go on and tell you how many bishops, pastors, or apostles that I've been investigating and exposing and talking about over the years. Some of them are languishing in prisons right now. There's one Bishop Zondo. Right now he's going through a trial in Pretoria, in Johannesburg. and here taking advantage of young women. He's taking advantage of people financially and all that. There's Timothy Omotosho, a Nigerian based here. He's been languishing in prison, in St. Albans prison in Port Elizabeth for the past 4 years. There's Alf Lukau, we don't even know where he is now. There's Bushiri, he has run away back to Malawi. So you see, God is doing something, he's cleaning his house. They have turned his house into a den of thieves. Instead of a house of prayer, it has become a den of thieves. So I want to thank each and every one of you, for just being there with me and hanging with me and for your support. I cannot I cannot take that for granted. Bongani, thank you so much. Appreciate you. You've been there. Thank you, Chris Styles, rather. Thank you, Adelaide. Great to have you here. Great to have you here. Thank you, Reverend Dale. Good to have you here. Choni, you've been there. Thank you so much. Now is the time I respect you more than ever more. Yeah, just God. It's not me, but it's God. People say, Solomon, where do you get the courage to stand for truth? I've gotten calls from pastors saying, you have really challenged our faith. You have really called us to boldness and courage. Where do you get that kind of courage? I don't have it, but the Holy Spirit has it through God, and He gives it to me, and we're all called to play different roles. So thank you. Thank you, Olawumi. She says, Uncle Solomon, I'm glad to see you, sending lots of love and prayers to you and yours. We're definitely winning this battle. We're coming out strong and victorious. Indeed, we're winning it. Thank you so much. He's cleaning his house. Yes. Rosemary, welcome back, Truth Lover. All the best from Durban. Thank you, Rosemary. Good to have you here. Simanga says, Nana Poku is next. Yes, that charlatan Nana Poku, yeah, is definitely next. Thank you so much, Sally. I cannot wait for Bushiri to be brought down, even in a runaway. Indeed, God has His own way. Thank you, Reverend John Polfi. Great to have you here. Great to have you, Faith Okachi. Thank you so much, Renai, all the way from Malaysia. Good to have you here. Evelyn, also out in Switzerland. Good to have you here. Good to have you here. Clark, Queen from Not Riding. Sylvie from the Val. Thank you, Ali, all the way from Ghana, Accra. Good to have you here. Good to have each and every one of you. Thank you for your comments. There are lots and lots of comments. Telly from Bloemfontein, thank you so much. Ponty from Naturena, she says she's watching from Naturena. Naturena is actually where the prison that I went to is. It's in the south of Johannesburg. It's just right there by Naturena. That is Johannesburg Prison, where I spent time. Thank you, Adolphine from Namibia. Great to have you here. Biblical Truth says, I'm here from Scotland, UK. You are a true man of God. The Lord is your strength. Your prison experience has totally exposed those fake pastors. Amen. Amen. Nubian Queen says, greetings, everyone. Bro Solomon, I love will always win over hate. Stand by your truth. God will always see you true. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. From Nelspruit, we got love. We got love here. Joseph from Kenya, thank you so much. Daniel from Jos, Nigeria, thank you. Thank you, Pazima. Thank you so much for your gracious donation of 35 Rand. Thank you so much. Every one of you, maybe on watching on YouTube, there's a super sticker that you can actually make a donation. There's super sticker. Pazima here made the donation through super sticker. Nothing is too small, nothing is too big. We need money for this work. Right now, I have legal bills of thousands of dollars that I need to pay. It's money, people. God will provide, So if you want to give, no matter how small, $10, $5, $50, $100. I mean, I've had people in the past giving $1,000 or even more. Please go ahead and do that through Super Sticker. And if you are on PayPal, this is a PayPal address, PayPal link rather, solomontalk@yahoo.com. You can make a donation via PayPal, solomontalks@yahoo.com. This will help in a lot of ways. This will help to silence them. One of the reasons why a lot of these charlatans and prophets take me to court is because they know I do not have the financial muscle like they have. All these guys are multi-millionaires, Omotosho, Bushiri, uh, Lucao, Zondo, they're all multi-millionaires. I'm not a millionaire. I live by faith. I believe God to provide in all that I do, to provide financially. Sometimes when I came out of prison, I met someone in prison who lives not far from my house, and I was so shocked. He lives in a what we call like a squatter camp, where there's so much poverty and crime and all that. He's a gardener, and he has a wife and kids, and he was in prison, and originally from Zimbabwe. He was in prison because he took some stuff from somebody. He stole. So I discovered he lived not far from my house. I said, okay, since you're in prison, when I go out, I'm going to buy some food, buy some stuff for your family, and call your wife. Give me your wife's number, and I will call her and give it to her, because I know you as a provider, you're not there. So when I came out, I actually told my wife, and I went and bought stuff. I think it was 2 or 3 days ago. I called her and we met up, and I gave it to her. Which would go a long way in helping us. So those are some of the things that outside of just legal fees, or that's not the only way I use money. I go visit people, even some prisoners who are in desperate need in prison. I look for ways to support them. There is also a couple of prisoners that said they were wrongly accused and sentenced to 15 years in prison. You know, and so I'm looking for ways to help them. 3 of them. So they sentenced to 15 years in prison. And they said everything was a setup. Well, that's their side, but I need to get some sort of like attorney that will look at it and see if there's a chance, if what they're saying is true and all that. There are a lot of people in prison who are not supposed to, who are wrongly accused, set up, and all that kind of stuff. It does happen, you know. So please, if you want to give via PayPal, solomontalks@yahoo.com is the best way to go about it. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Fidelis says, "Be courageous, bro. Solomon. You have chosen a very difficult task in the body of Christ, but with God, all things are possible." Thank you. We say salute from Seattle, Washington, Anambra State, man. Okay, good to have you here. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for all that you're doing. So I want to, I can just share my prison experience. I just felt that I needed to share with people. People need to know what I've been through. And the challenges. I went through a lot of challenges, hardship. It's prison, so it was definitely hard, and I didn't even know it was really hard, that it has really exhausted me spiritually, emotionally, and physically until I came out. When I came out after the first broadcast that I did, just to say I'm out, I didn't feel like doing nothing. I sleep all the time. I just I didn't feel motivated, and that was the level that I've been really exhausted, because in prison I gave quite a lot. I was preaching and discipling people almost every day, but I'm going to share that with you in the course of this conversation, just so you can have an idea what I've been through. So I just say, I'm going to share some of my experience now, and then I'm going to share some of my experience again, maybe in a part 2. If there's a need for part 3, then I'm going to try to do that. Now, whilst I was in prison, I'm going to share a lot of what I shared is actually, this is my journal. I got this book. So this is what I did. whilst I was in prison, I wrote all of this, all of this, all of this, you know, lots and lots of pages and pages and pages. Every day I was journaling. Every day I was journaling and journaling. I journaled. I have, I think, about 100 pages of just journaling my experiences every single day, what I saw, certain individuals, people that I meet, what God is saying to me, what I shared, and all that kind of thing. So it's quite a lot, you know. I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to do it in part one and part two, but I'm just gonna try anyway. And I don't know, maybe next year sometimes I might just put this into a book just to share with people. You know, put it in a book format, maybe write a book, you know, just so people would know maybe a little bit more about what I do and people that have a misconception. And also people would know and be encouraged that we're all called to stand and fight the good fight of faith. Now we cannot allow people to take advantage of the faith that we have and we believe in. We must defend our truth. We must defend it. That is very, very important. So I, you know, on the 27th of October, as you guys know, I was picked up. I was home, just getting ready. Didn't know I was going to be picked up. Was just getting ready, and then my wife got a call that, you know, and it was the authorities are in my estate where I live. And normally you don't come to my house directly, you have to go to the admin office. So they went to the admin office. We got a call from the admin office that we there is authorities and they're here to see me. So I went, I was like, who is that? You know, my wife told me. So I said, let me drive down and go see them. So I drove down, go meet them. And they said, no, they have a warrant of arrest for me, a warrant from the High Court to pick me up and take me to prison to start serving my sentence. So now, all the while, myself and my attorney have been thinking that they were going to notify us, which is the right and proper way of doing things. Notify you, just so you know, you have to hand yourself over to a police station, or we're coming to pick you up tomorrow or in 2 days and all that, just so you can prepare. But this totally took me unawares. My kids were in school. I was supposed to go pick them up. How do you say goodbye to your wife just that way, you know? And when I told them, when they told me that, I said, okay, let me speak to my attorney because we were supposed to be notified before I hand myself in. So I now called my attorney. I spoke to him. He said he didn't get any email from them to notify him that they coming to, pick me up to go start my sentence. So it was a bit awkward, you know, but I knew that was just part of all their game plan because they just want to make sure you're frustrated and disappointed and angry and all that kind of stuff. So they just a way of intimidation for me, you know. So he now said, okay, he would try to speak to Alf Lukau's attorney, and he spoke to his attorneys, and the attorneys didn't want to change the plan. He said, look, can we hold this on until evening or tomorrow? How about we just hold this on until tomorrow so he can say a proper goodbye to his family and his kids and all that and get himself ready? But they were not budging. So he called me back and said, these guys are not budging. And what is that? I said, look, let's just do this thing and get it over with. Let me just go into prison and put this behind us. This case has been dragging for 4 years. January 2017, that was when the whole thing started. When I started speaking about Lukau, way before Lukau's so-called, in quotes, resurrection miracle with Elliot. I've been speaking about Lukau and what I felt was totally wrong about his message and about his miracles and about his lifestyle. I've been speaking about it long before the resurrection. The resurrection only happened in 2019. But I started speaking about him in 2017. I started raising the the concern about his activities, which I found to be non-biblical. So I said, let's get this over with. This has put a lot of strain on my wife, my family. My wife has been harassed over and over. Maybe one day I will play you a 30 minutes audio of Lukau's people, his bodyguard, and 2 other people with guns, deceiving and lying to my wife to come to a police station. And they intimidated and threatened her. I have the audio. At a police station, Morningside police station in Sandton, Johannesburg. So she's been through a lot. We've used our own money, our finances, hundreds of thousands, way before you guys started helping me financially. We've used our money to fight this. Again, they take me to the high court and all that because they know I do not have the money, or it's just going to strangle me and I would not have a chance. So I told my attorney, let's just do this and get it over with. You know, let's put this behind us. There are a lot of fights ahead. There are a lot of battles ahead. There are a lot of charlatans and false prophets ahead that we need to take on. So let's deal with this and get it over with. So I now told the people who came to get me, drive behind me, just park outside my house, let me get myself ready, and then we go. We drove, we came to my house. I went in quickly. My wife asked me, who was that? What was that about? I told her everything. Now I have to pack up because he was prepared not to leave without me. He was prepared to go and reinforce and get more police people to come and get me. He said, no, he wasn't leaving. That's what he told. That's what his attorneys were telling my attorney. No, he's not going to leave without Solomon. Solomon needs to go to prison today. So I've never been to prison before as a prisoner. I didn't know what to pick. I picked a small bag. I wish I'd taken a bigger bag, actually. And put on a few clothes, put on my toothpaste, my soap, my body cream, my Bible, and another book that I was reading. I put it all in there. I looked at my wife and there was tears coming out of her eyes. And yeah, it was that walk that you're walking away and your wife is behind you and you're feeling, when are you going to see your wife again? When are you going to see your kids again? You don't know what to expect ahead of you. So that was how I was picked up. That was how I was picked up. Thank you, Yolan. Thank you so much for supporting, for making a donation of 70 Rand via Super Sticker. I really appreciate you. And there's also Wonder Boy Ade. Ade, thank you for your $20. I really appreciate you. Anybody, if you want to make a donation via Super Sticker, if you're on YouTube, it's just for the guys on YouTube alone, because this is a YouTube service. Please go ahead and do that. And if you are on Facebook, or if you want to make a donation via PayPal, you can do that via solomontalks@yahoo.com. solomontalks@yahoo.com. That's where you can make a donation. Thank you so much. Also, I want to say thank you so much to Biblical Truths. Where are you, Biblical Truths? Yeah. Thank you, Biblical Truths. Biblical Truths also just made a donation of £20. Thank you so much. Siabonga. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. So I now had to, get into the car, park my car, leave my car, and drive to. He said they're taking me to Johannesburg Prison. And if you know Johannesburg Prison, is a prison where a lot of people who are serving long-term sentences. There's a maximum prison and all that big awaiting trial place and all that. That's where they moved me. They should have taken me to another prison like Leocock prison, which you don't get like really hardened criminals, which is more for people who are serving short-term sentences. But they didn't. From what they were saying, they said they couldn't get a bed for me there. So they took me out and we went. So we're driving and I was just wondering, a lot was going through my mind. I sent a few messages to a few people my friends that I know, just to let them know this is what's happening. Spoke to my pastor also, spoke to my mentor, Dr. Gabriel Francis, and, encouraging me, just everything is going to be okay. Just stay in there. Everything is going to be okay, So I held in there. I got to the prison. Outside the prison, we went in, and I took I made a short video that some of you guys saw, And when I saw the prison gates, it's obvious I used to come here as a minister to preach and to reach out. But now I'm coming in as a prisoner, which is totally a different ball game. So they took me in, they took me in, and through the gates. At the first gate, there are so many gates, prison is like there's one gate after the other, First gate, they know how to search us and all that and get things. And then one or two of the prison wardens actually recognized me because they knew me from TV because of what I do, exposing prophets. And I was like, okay, right from the gate, people, you're from, the prison wardens are familiar with you already. And at the end of the day, a lot of the prison wardens were actually very familiar with me and what I do on TV. And some of them actually, when I was in prison, they used to call me to come to their office and just talk about false prophets and what I do and all that, and talk about the Bible and talk about all these things, And I will share with you most of that. And I even prayed with some of them. There's a captain, captain who was in charge of my section. I was put in E section E of the prison, Johannesburg Prison. That was where I was. So they now they now took me in, and then once they took me in, because they brought me there, they have to hand me over to the prison. So they have certain paperwork that they needed to do. They had to sign to make sure that they have finished their part, and they have handed me over to the prison to start serving my sentence for what they call contempt of court, which was a case that started when Lukau took me to court, saying that I defamed him. So it was sort of like a defamation thing that now he now later on took me back to court and said, no, I defamed him again, so this is contempt of court. That was after the resurrection, when the resurrection happened around April of 2019. So that was when the whole thing now hit another level. When I arrived, the forms were filled, and the authorities who brought me were given a form, and then they left. I was now officially handed over to the correctional services, that is the Johannesburg Prison. And I filled forms, and I had to sign with my thumbprint. You do thumbprints and then you sign. And I went through a lot of paperwork, and I went over I was given the uniform, believe it or not. I was given the orange uniform, and I put it on. And I also had to go, and they asked me some medical questions. Do you have any health issues? Are you on any medication? Are you this and all that? They had to take away my wallet, my cell phone, and some money that I have. And then I had to wait. I had to wait for them. And were other prisoners, also people who actually came that were also going to be prisoners. So we had to wait. And I was given the prison number 221-249-152. So this was my prison number. This was my prison number, 221-249-152. like I said, quite a lot of the prison wardens recognized me. And we ended up, talking about all of this. You were this person. Take off your mask. You take off my mask, and then like, wow, I know you, and all that kind of stuff. So that sort of like gave me some sort of security. It's like, at least, I'm in a community where my first day arriving, a couple of people, are familiar with me already. So I joined other prisoners. They now have to take us all in. And then we went in from one gate to another gate, from the reception where we were registered all the way to our cell. It was, we had to pass through like maybe 10 or so number of gates, and we went on all the way and all the way and all the way. And it was myself with about 6 other people, 6 other inmates, prisoners who just came in to start their sentencing also. So we went in, and I was taken to section E of the Johannesburg Prison, and we were put in a cell for quarantine. So we had to quarantine for the first 10 days. So we were put in the cell for quarantine. We were put in that cell for 10 days. And we were, at one point, we were about 52 of us in that cell. 52 people in that cell. It wasn't a single cell, it was a group of people. And we're quarantining, so you can imagine. You put people together in a cell, and then they're quarantining that number of people. We share one toilet. We share one bath. Actually, the beds are like double bunk beds. But because we had so many people in there, at one point we had some of the beds that were together, 3 people. At one point I was sleeping with 2 other people in a bunk bed, 2 bunk beds that were brought together. And it's supposed to be for 2 people, if you know what I'm saying. And we arrived that evening, went in, and there were so many other people that you don't know. So you're now in the cell with people you don't know. And this is prison. Everyone there is a criminal. Some are there for housebreaking. Some are there for robbery. Some were there for fraud. Some were there to serve 15 years. Some are there to serve 25 years. Some are there to serve 3 years. Some are there to serve 7. Some have been there before. This is their 2nd or 3rd time. Some are used to it. Some are familiar with it. It was a reality that I wasn't used to. It was totally a new reality. But I told myself, Solomon, you're going in there, you are a prisoner. So be a prisoner. No, it's going to be hard. No, it's going to be challenging. Our meals in prison are normally in the morning. I mean, during quarantine, the first 10 days, we were only allowed to go out for about an hour. We're locked up in our cell for 23 hours. We go out for breakfast. We go and get our breakfast, which is porridge, white porridge or brown porridge with 2 slices of bread. Then we get back into our cell. And then we go out for lunch, which is pap or samp or rice, mealy rice. For some of you guys who are international, you might not know that. We get beetroot and we get cabbage. We get some soup that is just, tasteless. And you get a piece of beef or a piece of chicken or a piece of fish. That's what you get. It's prison. The food was horrible, but it's prison. And I only missed 1 meal because I was fasting. I didn't have any other option. I have to eat what everyone is eating. I actually have some marks from prison. My hands, there was some rashes that just came over my body. I don't know if it was because of, it's all, behind me, my bag. I don't know if it was because of the water or it was because of bed bugs or it was because of just some allergy, but I I was closing my eyes to eat because I need to stay strong. And I was a prisoner. So my mindset was a mindset of a prisoner. I'm not there to have comfort or whatever. No, I'm there. A prisoner is hard, and God is with me. I will go through it. That was my mindset, all through. There were other prisoners who would bring in money. They have money, they could buy stuff. And prison is not what you think. You can get anything. You can get great food in prison if you have the money. You can bribe some of the corrupt guys to bring in food for you. You can even bribe the guys in the kitchen to bring food for you. You can even get your own thing going and all that. So that was the life. For dinner, we have just like a bit of juice. They bring a juice in a bucket and give us dinner. We have it in the cell, and they open the cell and give us a bucket of juice. You can have like 2, 3 cups of juice and 5 slices of bread. That's dinner. And you're locked up for the first 10 days in the cell for 23 hours. You're locked up with criminals. So now my friends became criminal. It was a privilege. I'm going to share about some of the characters, some of the guys that I made friends with them. They're criminals. They're career criminals. They're in prison, and they're actually planning how they're going to commit crime again as soon as they're released, to make sure that they're not caught. So they're not repentant. That's what they do. That's the only thing that they know. I was sharing the bed with a guy who was into armed robbery, and he was caught. They shot at the police. He was caught. He's serving 15 years. With guys who was into house breaking. Another one who is serving life sentence. You know what that means? That means you took the life of another person. And then and then there is the whole thing of, at one point, out of about 52 people in one cell, I was the only one who was not a drug user, who was the only non-smoker. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying? Out of about 52 people in the cell, I was the only one who wasn't using cocaine, heroin, mandrax, crystal meth, rock, nyaupe, weed, or smoke. I was the only one. So in the cell, almost every time there is smoke, it's like, when you go into a drug den where people are just smoking and drinking, it's just smoke. The young people are smoking here. There's a group of guys smoking. They're wrapping their smoke. They're getting their smoke ready. They have a syringe where they're getting their drugs ready. And sometimes they sit by my bed and do it. There's nothing I could do about it. I was actually inquisitive. What is that? The first time I saw heroin in my life, the first time I saw nyaupe, I saw an addict injecting the blood of another addict because they didn't have enough drugs to go around. So the one guy would take the drugs and he would be high. So he would use a syringe and pull his blood out, and give it to his friend. And then his friend will now inject the blood into his vein right around here. I saw that. I saw his eyes. It was like, what is this? I saw addiction. I saw broken people. I saw drug abusers. If you think prison is for rehabilitation, it's not what you think. A lot of what's going on in prison, there's a challenge there. I believe God is in prison. I believe God can save people. God has saved so many people in prison. But I just wish that a lot more could be done for rehabilitation. There's drugs non-stop coming in prison. There are different gangs that control the drugs. There's a 27, they call them. There's a 28. And then there's another group called VC. They traffic drug in through different means, sometimes using the prison correctional services, prison wardens to bring in drugs. If you want to buy any sort of drug in prison, you can get it. And you can imagine you're not confined to one space, and then all you do is just take drugs and take drugs and take drugs. So there's my cell, there's a second cell. It's like 2 floors, and they're like cells, and then there's a kitchen there. So there's some sort of a courtyard in the middle where at least I walk around as a form of exercise, where there's grass, where we can hang our clothes also when we wash. Just check some of these messages. And guys, like I said, I journaled everything here. I journaled everything here. Everything. This is more details than actually what I'm telling you, because this is more descriptive. I have about 100 pages. Every day I journal. Every single day I journal. Hopefully next year, I'll write, put this together and maybe put it in a book, and just to share with you guys, and just to encourage you guys also that we need to fight the good fight of faith, that to also know that anywhere we go to, God is with us. As long as we're in the will of God and we're doing what God has called us to do. Even in prison, he was there. In that 10 days of quarantine, what I did is the second day, I now woke up in the morning, carried my Bible. I felt the Lord saying, it's time to preach, it's time to teach. Carried my Bible, prepared, went out there. In the morning, after everybody is taking his bath, some of the ones that were taking their bath, some of them even smoking their drugs in corners in the cell. Because around 7:30, the prison warden will come and all of us will go out and we stand in twos, and then they would count us. They need to count us. That's the first thing they do in the morning. And the last thing they do before they lock us up in the afternoon, they count us, because they need to know everybody is there. So I took up my Bible and said, look, guys, I'm here to share with you guys. We're all here because we are criminals. But the love of God supersedes what sort of crime that you've done. You made wrong choices, yes. You've done what you're not supposed to do, yes. That's why you're here. But the love of God brings forgiveness, and the love of God releases us. I don't know. I think all the stuff that I actually shared every morning when I was preaching and teaching and praying for them is all in here. I wrote it here, and there are some characters that I'm even going to share with you guys that are there. So from that day, I started preaching every morning. I would ask the Lord for a word based on what is going on. I take it. I go out. I preach and teach. There were so many people who gave their life to Christ. I do not keep count of it. There are so many of them who gave their life to Christ. There are so many of them who came to me afterwards for discipleship and counseling. Because when for discipleship and counseling, there are so many of them who came in, and I counsel them during the day. That's what I do. Some of them will come in for prayer. There is one particular Indian guy who was serving 15 years, and he has served 7, but he was given parole after 7, but he missed his parole, so they had to get him and bring him back into prison, and he had to go and meet the parole board, and he has a girlfriend who is gonna get married to, and she's pregnant and all that kind of stuff. And he just kept asking me for prayer every time. Pray in the morning, pray in the evening for him, just so when he goes to the parole board, he's gonna get some sort of a good response. And we prayed for him, and he went out and he never came back again because they released him. Here are gang members. One will tell me, Solomon, you don't want to know how many people I've taken out. You see them tattooed on their body. If there's one thing that Tupac Shakur has done very well is he put a lot of young people into prison. You know Tupac Shakur, the rapper? You will see a tattoo in front of, right in front of their chest here. Only God can judge me. You see a tattoo, me against the world, and a whole lot of stuff. So I now have to befriend drug dealers, gang members, criminals, robbers, sit down and listen to their stories. I had to create a relationship with them over and over again. I was counseling a lot of them. I was praying with a lot of them. I was just getting to know some of them. And some of them will tell me here straight, Solomon, as soon as I get out of here, I'm gonna go back to stealing. Yes, that's right, Terry. I saw quite a lot of this tattoo also. Talk life, talk for life. You see it. What's really the violence from hip hop, from rap music, what it has done to so many people. You know what I have to preach every morning when I wake up, and I have to preach to people, to the inmates, my prisoners and my friends. Call them my friends because they became my friends. They were criminals, but they became my friends. When I have to preach to them and share from scriptures, I have to be bold enough to not look at the fact that a lot of these people are criminals. So a lot of them has used guns before and all that, have taken people out. But I have to look at them and say, I need to share the truth with them. So I had to be bold and share the truth with them with no fear, with no favor, without thinking, well, do you know this guy is serving 25 years? Do you know this guy is here for doing this? They're criminals, Solomon. No. The love of God engulfs me, and I have to love them. And if you love somebody, you're going to tell them the truth. Tell them the truth about Jesus. Tell them the truth about salvation. Tell them the truth about their lives, choices that got them into prison in the first place. With no fear. Was prison hard? Yes, prison was hard. Prison was very difficult, but I was a prisoner. So I expected it was going to be hard and difficult. Somebody asked me, Solomon, would you do this again? What you said about Lukau and all that, and that leading you to prison. I said, yes, I would do so. Banton here is saying 15 years after 7 years for parole. How so? I thought someone must serve the full sentence. No, people don't. If somebody is sentenced to 20 years in prison, he must serve 10 years. That's half of it. And then the other half of it, he's going to be on parole. He has to be reporting to the parole board every month. Every month. They need to know his address, where he stays, and they can show up anytime. That's how it happens. So when you hear that someone has been sentenced to 10 years in prison, actually, he's only going to be in prison for 5 years. And the next 5 years, he's going to be on parole because they want him to reintegrate back into society easily. I was supposed to be on parole after 10 days, but it never really came. For some reason, they said they couldn't confirm my address. I'm going to share, so it never really came. And I was almost deported. I'm going to do a broadcast on that, maybe on Sunday or next week. How, whilst I was in prison, I was taken to court because there was an application for me to be deported out of South Africa back to Nigeria. I left Nigeria 20 years ago to study as a university student. Now, they want to take me back. I have a family, a wife and 2 kids, a young family. You know what it meant to stand before a judge that would look at you and tell you, Solomon, I received a request, an application to deport you. God showed up in so many, God showed up in so many ways. You have to be fearless when you know that you're in the will of God. Forget about the consequences. God would sort that out. He would help you to handle it. He would make a way. He will make a miracle. I'm going to share my whole deportation experience. I'm going to do a broadcast and just share about that much later. Olukayode Thomas, thank you so much. You're in Australia. You sent a 10 Australian dollars. It's your donation. You're prosecuted in jail for his glory and gospel. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. And I want to encourage any one of you guys also. I have legal bills to pay. I need money to take care of quite a bit of stuff. Please, if you want to make a donation, you can do that via PayPal, solomontalks@yahoo.com. Or if you're in Nigeria, there's a Nigerian account. If you see it right there under the bar scrolling, there's a GT Bank account number there. Or if you're local in South Africa, there's a NetBank account also there that you could do that. So, yeah. One of the prisoners that I met actually became friends to me because he wanted me to be his friend. He's always coming to me because like they started just calling me pastor, pastor, pastor. Anywhere I go, it's pastor, pastor, pastor. And because of that, actually, I sort of like, even gang members will come to me and share what they're going through. Pastor, pastor. One of the guys is called Ndu. He's from Alex. Alex is a small township here outside Sandton in Johannesburg. And Ndu is a very talented man. He's a panel beater and also a criminal. So he's very good in panel beating. And what happens is guys will go on hijack cars, car hijackers would hijack cars and bring the car to him, and then he reconfigures the car. He tells me all that. His nickname is Stolen Goods. That was his nickname, Stolen Goods. Stolen Goods. You know what that means? Stolen Goods. That's his nickname. So Stolen Goods is just good at panel beating cars that's stolen. Change the configure, make it something different. Either take it across the border into Namibia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, or, put it here locally. And Stolen Good was also HIV positive. He told me that. I said, are you taking your medication? I hope you're doing that. Stolen Good told me about a story how he was a young gang member and criminal in Alex, and how himself, against another gang, they caught 2 gang members and they put them in there and they put a tire around them. And you know what happened? Fire. He said, I watched them. I watched them. So, in prison, I really learned what it meant to be friends of sinners. When they say Jesus is friends of sinners, he was hanging out with the tax collectors and with this person and with that person, and others were complaining about it. I knew what it meant to be friends of sinners. You now have to look at criminals with a human eye. People that you would normally not even sort of like talk to outside of prison. People that you would normally not even interact with outside of prison. But you need to take the gospel to them. You need to love them. You need to be able to embrace them. There are two prisoners in particular, Given, who is a gang member of the 28th and a drug dealer, he's also saying, Pastor, if you know what I did to people, you'll be shocked. And then there's Simpiwe, who's a young lad who is HIV positive. He was born that way. I think he was like 25. To see them begin to go to church after I got close to them in discipleship, and they sharing with me what's going on in their family afterwards, because they sort of like had broken relationship with their families and all that. It was really heartwarming. It is an experience, to be honest with you, that has changed my life. That has changed a lot of ways that I see things. I'm going to live with this experience for the rest of my life. When I came out of prison, the first person that welcomed me, my wife was going to come, but one of my mentors, Dr. Gabriel Francis, said, no, we don't want you to experience this sort of trauma. Stay home. We'll go get him. He came with another friend, Stephen, and they picked me up. They brought some clothes for me. I changed. They picked me up. We drove. They brought me home. The first thing we did when we got home was to really grab my wife and kiss her and hold her tight. Because if there was anything I missed, if there was anything that was difficult for me whilst in prison, it wasn't the lack of freedom that was difficult for me. It wasn't the terrible food that was difficult for me. It wasn't the intimidation. I got a few intimidation that was difficult for me. It wasn't the whole being in a drug community and with drug dealers and drug users that was difficult for me. What was difficult for me was the fact that I missed my family. Family is everything to me. Some of you guys who know. My wife and my kids, that was the most difficult part. I can take any sort of difficulty. You can even beat me up. You can lock me up. I can take that. But being away from my family, when I could not speak to my family. There were phones in prison. A lot of prisoners have phones. Illegally. The prison wardens get their phones from their families and bring them. And they pay them 50 Rand or 100 Rand for doing that. A lot of them offered me the phone, call your wife and all that. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. First, I'm a Christian and I need to show integrity. I'm not going to do what is illegal. I could have asked my wife to send me money, and there's a way that I could receive maybe e-wallet money and then take the code and give it to the prison warden, and they would go get the money for me, and then I would give them, for every 200 Rand, I give them 50 Rand. It's happening in prison. People have money in prison. But all that is illegal, and I don't see myself participating in that. First, because it's against my faith. And secondly, when you were there, you have to be an example to everybody. They were shocked that I was not ready to use the phone to just call my wife and speak to my kids. But the Lord kept me. Yeah, there's so much to share, and I don't want to make a too long video, to be honest with you. So I'm going to do a part 2 of this video. But before then, I want to share this scripture from Revelation 2:10, the A part of this scripture. It says, do not fear what you are about to suffer. Behold, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison that you may be tested. God doesn't throw people into prison. The devil throws people into prison. The criminals that are in prison for robbery and all that is because the devil asked them to go rob somebody that will have money and they can go have a good time. That's why they're in prison. God didn't put them in prison. But the devil will put us into prison. But it's a test because we are children of God. That becomes a test because the devil cannot overcome us. The devil can make people like Lukau to put me or other people in prison. If you go to China, there are a lot of other Christians who are in prison because of their faith in China. They're being persecuted daily. What we face in Africa is just a tip of the iceberg. We must never complain, but we must thank God that we have freedom of religion here, and we must keep speaking the truth. The gospel must go out there. That is important. So I do hope that whatever prison that the devil is planning to put you in, to throw you in, it might not be a prison like my own experience. The prison might be in your mind. The prison might be in the area of your relationship, your marriage, money, your career, sin. Sin can be a prison. What sort of sin has the devil used to imprison you? I encourage you to see that as a test. Make sure you pass this test by following the path of righteousness out of it. I want to thank each and every one of you again for all your prayers whilst I was in prison, incarcerated, for your support, for your words. Some of you guys have sent me so many messages. Thank you. Some of you guys have supported me financially. Thank you. I really appreciate it so much. Thank you so much, sweetie. Buy a super sticker. You're giving £9 there. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Arum. Arum is giving 20 Canadian dollars. That is CA, right? Yeah, Canadian dollars. Thank you so much. Thank you. This will go a long way. This will go a long way. If you want to give, please see the details, the account details. In Nigeria, there's an account details there. In South Africa, there's an account details scrolling right under there. Please do so. And one of the best ways to do so is via PayPal. My PayPal is solomontalks@yahoo.com. Guys, like I told you, everything I shared with you is in my journal. Maybe next year, Ellie, I will just put it in a book. There's so much details in there. Put in the book, because that was how I processed my everyday. That was how I talked to God. Some of the things that God is telling me, I put it out there. Everything is there. Everything. Let me try to read. Let me read what I wrote on day 8 when I was in prison. Day 8, I says, the addicts are busy rolling and lightening their weed, cigarettes, and drugs as we prepare for our morning devotion. We did a Bible study prayer today about fear, reading from Isaiah 41:10. I encourage everyone to look beyond their fear and hold on to God. I mentioned the fact that many of them are in prison today because of fear of poverty and not having money and nice things, and this led them to stealing and robbery. At the end of our time, I ask everyone to pray the sinner's prayer. especially for those who are not born again. During the afternoon, one of the prison wardens took interest in my work of exposing false prophets, and he wanted to know more. We spent an hour together talking about all the false prophets and their modus operandi. This gave me some sort of freedom out of the cell to be in the triangle-shaped prison courtyard, to bask in a bit of sunshine. We even dived into a bit of Christian history and the tradition of African connecting to their ancestors. While chatting with him, I met my first transgender prisoner. He or she said her name is Ntabiseng, but they call her Beth. It seems she is in prison for a long time. Her nails are colorful with diverse rings around her fingers. She's all made up with a weave. She's also interested in biblical discussion, and we spend a lot of time talking about speaking in tongues. I always enjoy these discussions during the day to help my mind stay busy and to also offer a different perspective to issues to those that I engage. This is just a little bit from my journal. This is just day 8, so there's quite a lot of it, and I just shared with you what I just shared with you is actually just a little bit. So I'm going to do a part 2 on actually just do a part 2 to share my prison experience, and then I'll do a part on how I almost got deported out of South Africa. But I want to stop here, and I just want to, again, I cannot say thank you enough to you guys and what you have done. Thank you so much. Adebola says, Solomon, welcome home, just joining the broadcast. Simon says, you went to prison, and don't forget that you have already saved millions of souls. Amen. To the glory of God. Terry says, are you banned for speaking about Lookout? No. No court can ban you from speaking about anybody. It's just when they said you speak to them when they said that you defame them, because that is what he said, that I defamed him. Daniel says, Uncle Solomon, we are solidly behind you. The charlatans' days are numbered. Thank you. Powerful scriptures. Sibongile says, powerful scripture right there. Thank you so much. Udeme says, blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Amen. Terry says, prison is a business, control corruption. Indeed, I experienced that. We should be prepared to only fear the one who can kill both the body and soul. Yes, Mary, I agree with you totally. Thank you so much, guys. Guys, I really want to say thank you again. I appreciate each and every one of you for your support. Yeah, I'm back now, so I hope I'm going to be doing more broadcasts. I'm going to try to do another broadcast, my prison experience part 2, maybe later today or tomorrow. And then I would do, yeah, and then as time goes on, I will just keep sharing about my experiences, even in other broadcasts that have nothing to do with my experiences. So thank you so much. I really appreciate each and every one of you. May the Lord continue to bless you. May his face continue to shine upon you, because you are his beloved. Thank you, and I will catch you again later.